Okay, Mayor, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. I will call the January 27th City of Citrus Heights City Council meeting to order. And let's see, Steve, will you lead us in the flag salute?
Certainly. Pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
of
of the
the
United States of
America
and
and
to
to the
the republic
republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. Amy, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruins,
Present.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here.
Councilmember Miller,
Here,
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Here.
and Mayor Middleton.
Here.
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Monday, January 31st at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at the city's YouTube channel.
Okay, next item.
Next item is approval of agenda.
I move approval.
second,
Motion by Bruins, second by Miller. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
aye,
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item.
The next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
Okay, let's start with Mr. Daniels.
Thank you very much. Met today at the Air Board. Some good news. They shared that previously I informed folks that there was a program where you could apply to get electric vehicles, and the number that has done that is 409. So it's gone real well. I did ask them if they had a breakdown of zip codes to see if Citrus Heights folks were participating, and they did not have that yet, but they'll get it to me, and then I'll share that. And then also that in the region, we've been able to now put out 150 all-electric buses, school buses. So 150 school buses out there, all electric. On the negative side, there is a requirement that's been put forward by CARB to require businesses to document a whole bunch of stuff coming up. And I'll have a little bit more information on that again soon. But it is unfortunately another burden on our businesses that is unfunded by the state. And it's just something that we continue to see put out by regulatory boards, which it's just wrong. And even the Air Board people think it's wrong because it is unfunded. But I'll again come back with further information on that. But it's basically an additional burden on our businesses, which is not good. And I think that is it for now.
Okay. Jeannie, do you have anything for us?
Just a couple of things. First of all, I was able to attend a couple of ribbon cuttings since our last meeting, which I don't get to do very often. The first one was to a little Mediterranean restaurant called Yummy Tummy, and got a sample of their food fare. And so recommend that if you want something new. They're in the Grand Oak Shopping Center. And then I also attended a ribbon cutting at the chamber office for George and Associates, George and Sons, excuse me, which is he's a licensed handyman. And so always handy to have that around. And then yesterday we had our Sacramento Regional County Sanitation Board and Sacramento Sewer Board meetings. Spent quite a bit of time, an unusual amount of time on electing our chair and vice chair, because there are segments that of the region, basically in Yolo County, that have been added to regional SAN, but are not part of Sac Sewer. So the discussion was about whether to have one chair or two chairs because of the rotation. we ultimately voted to have Supervisor Rich Desmond be the chair, which he was in line to do that. And then behind him to be David Sander. Sorry, I could think of his son's name. I couldn't think of his name. David Sander from Rancho Cordova to be the vice chair, along with Ms. Orozco from West Sac. And then we deal with whether we're going to have two presidents next year. Other than that, we had just some updates on reports and financials. So it was not a whole lot of business conducted, and we'll meet again next month. Thank you.
Okay. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, I, along with Mayor Middleton, council members Daniels and Bruins, we attended the chamber officer installation dinner at the community center. And it was really good to, it was, they were swearing in officers, but they also had a comedian for entertainment, and it was just a good time had by all. Then Monday, we held a regional transit ad hoc committee meeting on voting distribution. As I've reported in the past, we've gone from weighted voting to one representative, one vote, very similar to the library board or the sanitation board, where it's rather large. You have members from each community, and of course, Citrus Heights, Rancho, Folsom each get one vote, and there's four representatives from the city and 3 from the county. We also have to deal with the possibility of adding more jurisdictions. We're going across the river to West Sac. They'll become at least a contract city, so we've got to figure out a way to have a seat on the board for them. And I see in the future, not the near future, but possibly adding the city of Davis and possibly Yolo County, but that's way down the road. But again, we have to go to the legislature to get enabling legislation. And we've already done that once. We'll have to do it again for this new voting distribution. And I'd like to be the last time in my career we have to go and ask for a bill to be written. Wednesday, attended the Citrus Heights Connect meeting and learned a few things on upcoming events. Our former council member, Jeff Slowey, reported that the Rotary Crab Feed is Saturday, February 12th at the community center. And that doors open at 5 p.m. If you're interested in going, you feel safe going, you can always email me at my city address for tickets, or just search Citrus Heights Rotary on the web. On Friday, February 18th, the Chamber of Commerce and the Police Activities League will be holding a cornhole tournament, and that's from 6 to 9 p.m. at the community center. And again, you can go to the Chamber's website and to sign up for that, and usually it's a team of 2. The other thing that was reported by Sam Morrow from Heights Church is on the 4th Sunday of every month, from 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning, they have a truck there to gather food and clothing and eyeglasses. And Heights Church is at 6540 Sylvan Road. I know they take the food to the food closet we have. I forget the name of that church. But we help them with grants as well. So yeah, if you have some extra food or clothing and you'd like to donate it, that'd be a great place to do it. And I think that's everything.
Thank you. Tim, do you have anything? You're on mute, Tim.
Unmute yourself, Tim.
First library board meeting this year with our brand new director, Peter Coyle. That went very, very well. We elected Garrett Gaywood and one of the supervisors, Richard Desmond, as our vice chair. So but that was a great meeting. It's pretty brief today. I did want to mention a really interesting brief story about so for those of you that have met her, we had Nancy Methvin was the president of Area 5, and she passed away quite suddenly. Her brother, who lives in Wairika, was trying to locate, because she had a small dog and a cat, trying to locate a neighbor. She actually, through a series of events, got in touch with the folks at Pona, Will and Tom Sheeler, and they were able to. Tom was sick. He called me, and I went over and knocked on a neighbor's door who was sort of temporarily. Her neighbors had discovered that she'd had a stroke, and she did not survive her stroke. But it was really interesting to find out that it was actually through her brother lives in Wairika. There was a friend that lived here in Citrus Heights who had moved to Oregon, and she knew Tom Sheeler and made that connection. And we were able to get Nancy's dog rehomed. And I think one of the neighbors adopted Nancy's cat, but may she rest in peace. I thank you very much for her service. But we did have a loss there. Other than that, I look forward to patronizing the restaurant that Jeannie opened, the Mediterranean food. I happen to be a pretty big fan of Mediterranean food, so that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Nothing to report from any of my boards. We had our elections of chair and vice chair to various committees. Too many to list with SACOG. As you know, we have at least 5 different committees. And that's all I have to report. So next item. No, we can't hear you. Or at least I
Amy, you're
can't.
on mute.
The joys of technology. I look forward to the time when we're actually able to do this in person.
I wonder if she knows she's on mute.
Sorry, we lost the audio in the council chambers for a minute.
Looks like we lost it again.
Amy, I show you're on mute.
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we were having some technical difficulties, so hopefully it will stay on.
Okay. Our next item is.
Our next item is public comment, and members of the public may address the council on any agenda item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please use the raise hand function or *9 from a telephone to indicate your desire to speak. When your name is called, I will allow you to unmute your microphone to speak. We do have 2 raised hands. I do have a written public comment for the public hearing, which I will hold until we open the public hearing. So if the speakers are raising their hand to speak for the public hearing, we will be taking those during that item. So if you wish to continue to speak on another topic that is not related to the public hearing item, please use the raise hand function.
Clerk Van, when you say public hearing, are you talking about item 9?
Correct. Item 9
Okay,
on the.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, item 9 regarding the rate increases for garbage, recycling, and organic waste. I'm assuming the public comment with their hands raised are speaking on a topic other than the solid waste fees, and I will start with John M. I have now unmuted you so you can speak.
Okay, I think I just understood you to say, hello, Councilwoman Bruins, good to see you,
Thank
or
you.
not see you.
I'm here.
I think I misunderstood you for the solid, or not the solid, for the Republic rate increase, you want us to wait until item 9?
Correct. We will be opening the public hearing and taking public comment for that item during that item.
Okay, I apologize for raising my hand, Council.
Okay.
All right.
Let me
Amy?
check with the other person to see if they are also speaking on the same item. And Bridget Duffy, were you speaking under general public comment, or were you speaking to item 9 regarding the solid waste rates?
It's general public comment.
Okay, so you have 3 minutes.
Okay, this is regarding a declaration, cease and desist, and notice of liability. And I'm addressing this to the city of Citrus Heights, the county of Sacramento, and the state of California. There has been a globally renowned experts. I won't go into the list, but there are globally renowned experts consistently warn the world about the adverse effects resulting from the COVID-19 experimental injections. They also warn about their long-term effects, which cannot be known at this time, since most clinical trials will not be completed until 2023 and some as late as 2025. This is a document that I'm going to bring in person tomorrow to the city to give to the city. I watch children walk by my house every day. They're going to school wearing masks. There is scientific studies now that say masks are detrimental to the health of the lungs. They are also detrimental for children learning. Human children learn most directly from the myriad of different intricate movements of the face. Children have lost 2 points in the intelligence tests since the COVID-19 restrictions have been in place. I feel like it's an outrageous attack on our country, and our city elected government is, to me, not doing their job. They're not upholding the Constitution. They are not defending us from all threats, both foreign and domestic. And I think that it is about time something was done about it. People are starting to lose their minds. People are running people down in cars and all kinds of crazy things because of the stress of all this. People are sick, people are dying, people are not breathing oxygen, they're oxygen deprived. Something has to be done. And I wanted to just bring it before the council, and tomorrow I'll be bringing the paper in to go with it, that it's a cease and desist order. So I think that's it.
Okay. Amy, do we have any other public comment?
At this time, I do not see any other raised hands for public comment.
All right, thank you. Next item.
The next item is consent calendar items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion by Daniels and a second by Bruins. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton.
Aye. Motion passes. The next item I have, I'm sorry, next item, please.
The next item is public hearing number 9. The subject is public hearing regarding rate increases by Republic Services for its residential garbage, recycling, and organic waste services in the city of Citrus Heights. The recommendation is to conduct the public hearing and receive public comment and accept written protest on the proposed rates and adopt a resolution affirming the customer rate schedule effective July 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2027, as set forth in the 2021 amended and restated residential solid waste and recycling collection services agreement with Allied Waste Services of North America.
So at this time, the city council will open the public hearing to take comment from the public on the proposed rates. Staff is available to address questions and comments from the public. The city clerk has been accepting written protests since the notice of this hearing was mailed, and written protests will continue to be accepted up until the close of the public input portion of the public hearing and can be deposited into the drop box located in the front of City Hall. We will also accept written comments. So with that, I will open the, I will take the item.
Mayor Middleton, Mary Poole with the General Services Department. Is it appropriate if I could go ahead and do a brief presentation before the public comment section?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Can you see, I'm sharing my slideshow. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay. In slideshow mode?
It looks that way, yes.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Mayor Middleton, members of the City Council. This again is Mary Poole with the General Services Department. I'm here along with Carrie Baxter from R3 Consulting Group. And also with us tonight is Tony Perez, the General Manager of Republic Services, and Anna Rulon, who's the Municipal Sales Manager. And before the mayor starts taking public comment, we just wanted to provide a presentation on the item before you. So tonight we are here to address residential organics recycling, and specifically to request City Council action to affirm the rates as set forth in the amended service agreement, which was first presented in July at a City Council study session for direction, and then approved by the City Council on October 28th, 2021. This is all part of the City Council's compliance efforts under the mandatory residential recycling requirements of SB 1383, which is the state's mandatory unfunded organics recycling mandate. And as you may recall, staff has been methodically taking steps to ensure the city is in compliance with CalRecycle regulations and state law. So staff is recommending that after this presentation is completed, that the City Council conduct the public hearing, which has begun. And once the public comment portion of the hearing is concluded, staff is asking that the item be continued until later in the meeting to allow staff the opportunity to complete the tally of the written protests. If at the conclusion of the public comment portion of the hearing, the number of written protests submitted is less than 50% of the affected property owners, then the staff recommendation is to affirm the customer rate schedule that was approved at the October 28th City Council meeting. I know this seems like a lot of items, but we did want to make sure that we were able to briefly review the facets of this unfunded mandatory organics law and the steps that we have taken that brought us here tonight. So we will briefly check in on the elements of SB 1383, what is included in the city's compliance plan that was submitted to CalRecycle, a snapshot of the history of discussions that the city has had with the City Council, that staff has had with the City Council and the community, features of the Republic Services amendment that was approved in October, and a reminder of the pending service changes and the services that residents will continue to have access to. The rate schedule that was approved in October and then also a comparison to the region as far as rates are concerned. And then, of course, the next steps. So this slide just is a reminder that SB 1383 is a major piece of legislation, and that staff has been working on all elements to ensure that the city is compliant with state law. Staff meets regularly with CalRecycle staff, our regional working groups, internal city staff, and our consultant team to make sure that the city is staying on track. And as you can see, the requirements under this unfunded mandate run the gamut from requiring organics recycling from all businesses, all residents, including multifamily, to edible food recovery, procurement, outreach, education, and of course, compliance monitoring and enforcement, both on the generators and on the city. There are multiple pieces to the city's compliance plan, of which the residential service agreement is one piece. And at this time, the city is on track to make its target deadlines. This slide is the reminder of the process that we've been going through over the past 2 years, and we're actually moving into year 3 now, with the most formal action being the City Council approval of the agreement back in October, subject to the results of the public hearing this evening. The reason that we're implementing organics collection for our residents is because it is required under the unfunded mandate of SB 1383. It was necessary that the city renegotiate the terms of the current agreement with Republic Services, which expires in 2027. The new terms ensure the residents of Citrus Heights are provided with the lowest cost option that preserves existing service package elements and keeps the city moving forward with its compliance under state law. It also results in the city continuing to have among the lowest rates for residential garbage service in the region. The amendment was approved, as I noted before, at the October 28, 2021 City Council meeting, with the rate schedule also being approved subject to the results of the public hearing being held tonight. If there's not a majority protest, the requested action is to affirm the action taken at the October City Council meeting. Should the city fail to comply with SB 1383, penalties of up to $10,000 a day would be possible. In addition, the city would have to immediately move forward with a formal notice of intent to comply with SB 1383, outlining in detail how the city will meet the compliance requirements. The biggest changes that residents are going to experience will first and foremost be the shifting of food waste that is currently going into the garbage cart into the green waste cart, which will be serviced on a weekly basis starting in July. And then there will also be a need to restructure recycling collection, so some residents will have recycling on week A and others on week B. With all these changes, there will be significant public outreach, which has already started with the calendar that every household received and will include direct mail, door hangers, social media, and neighborhood association and event outreach, which also has already started. Besides the shift to weekly green cart service, and because of it actually, those residents who choose to continue having an additional green cart will have to pay a monthly fee. The one cart every week is essentially the same amount of green waste service, just in one cart versus 2. During leaf drop season, which is November through January, residents will continue to be able to set out up to 6 bags of leaves for collections next to their green carts. And this will actually be allowed on a weekly basis versus the every other week service that it occurs with now. And this is just reminder that all other services that were provided prior to the approval of the amendment remain available for residents, including 3 scheduled neighborhood cleanups, household battery collection on recycle day, used oil collection and replacement jugs on recycle day, free appointment-based home generated sharps collection, free household hazardous waste drop-off at the North Area Recovery Station and other household hazardous waste facilities operated by the county, free holiday tree collection in the several weeks after Christmas, and then again, the free 6 bags of leaves after on Green Waste Week, which will now be weekly in July. Now to the rates. So as previously discussed, the rates shown below were approved by the City Council at the October 28th council meeting, subject to the results of the public hearing tonight. This table shows the per month increase amount and also the billing cycle increase amount as customers are billed every 2 months. The rate increase comes out to about a 26.25% average increase. It's significant. While it is a significant increase for Citrus Heights customers, when compared to rates across the region, Citrus Heights continues to be among the lowest, if not the lowest. As you can see in this table of our neighboring jurisdictions' fees per month, Citrus Heights is the lowest. And this has been the case since the contract began with Public Services. And in fact, we even had 2 years when our rates went down by 5% for 2 consecutive years. This table shows the current rates other jurisdictions are paying based on the 64-gallon trash cart size, which is the most common service level subscription. So next steps include proceeding with the public hearing. And then again, if the protests submitted are less than a majority and the rates are affirmed, then Republic and city staff will launch the education campaign. And so back to the staff recommendation and over to you, Mayor Middleton. And staff is available now or later for any questions as we proceed.
Thank you for your presentation, Mary.
Just a
Now
question.
at this time,
Can I get-
I'll take comments from council members. Mr. Daniels?
Thank you very much. Mary, I just wanted to clarify. I think you said it this way, but weekly, week A and week B, that means that this stuff will not be picked up for 2 weeks at a time, correct?
No, it just means that right now everyone's on the same week for recycle collection. So once we start service in July, one group will have week A and the next group will have week B, but we're going to work it out so that no one has a 2-week gap.
I'm confused of what you mean then by week A and week B.
So it's just how you're scheduled. Right now, everyone has the same week. So 1 week is green waste and 1 week is recycle. But starting in July, we'll have green waste every week and recycle will be
Every other.
Whoever's in A will have it on week A and whoever's in
Okay, I
B will
understand.
have it on B.
Thank you. Thank you. And so that's going to necessitate 3 trucks coming down the street every other week, right?
Yeah, the organics is going to necessitate, yes, exactly.
Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Miller, go ahead.
If the protest is successful, Mary, do we then just send it into the state saying our folks voted it down? Thanks for the short-lived Climate Pollutants Organic Waste Method Emissions Reductions Act, but we're not participating. Is that the case?
No, we don't have the option not to participate. If the rates are voted down, then we need to go back to the negotiation table with Republic Services or find a different way to pay for the services that isn't from the ratepayers.
So really, it's an empty protest procedure. And why do we even vote on it if it's mandatory? I don't get it. I know that the issue tonight is not so much the act that the state mandated on us. It's more about the fee that we'll have to charge to comply. So it's not, we're not really debating the act that's upon us. It's the efforts by Republic and city staff to comply with the new act.
Right, I can jump in on that for a second, Councilmember Miller. You bring up a good point. Really, the reason we're doing this is because state law requires under Prop 218, if you're going to do rate increases, you got to go through this process. Yet the mandate to do the actual organics is going to happen regardless. This is just the function to get a rate increase.
So yeah, it's just taking away our right to protest. It just doesn't seem to be legal, but that's my opinion. So I'll stop with the editorials and move.
Mayor Middleton, may I have a moment?
Yes, Ms. Burns, go ahead.
So tonight, the protests, tonight, the issue is the rate increase. And so the protests would be addressing the rate increase, not the legislation that's passed, and as I understand it. So Mary, if the protests were successful and we were unable to move forward with staff's recommendation to affirm the rates, where else can the money come from to pay for this?
We would need to take a look at that at the staff level and come back to council with some options. There is not a designated funding stream from which that it's $2 million a year. That is the cost. So there is not a $2 million a year available to dedicate to subsidize these rates.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Schaefer, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Mary, how much does the curbside pickup cost per year for the 3 pickups?
So I don't have the exact cost of that available in front of me, Councilmember Schaefer. However, if that's something that you wanted to have some information on, we could provide that. It was provided, I think, at a high level at the study session back in July, when we went through how we looked at every possible configuration to try and keep these costs as low as possible, including reducing the number of neighborhood cleanups or eliminating them altogether. We looked at eliminating other programs, but the reality is that these programs that we have in place serve a purpose. We have them there for a reason, some of which are that we need to have the ability to recycle or properly dispose of our used oil and batteries and green waste and so forth. Neighborhood cleanup is a really great service that the residents really like and support, and the cost differential was insignificant when compared to the overall cost increase. We wouldn't have got that much out of it for the benefit that we would have had. The bulk of the cost increase is coming from the processing costs to take this material from our, it's not going to be land applied anymore. It has to go to a commercial composting facility and be processed in a very different way than it's currently being handled. That's a huge cost. And then the additional cost beyond that is for the additional drivers, trucks, and associated fee or service costs.
Yeah, I have no doubt that there's certainly a lot of costs associated with this program. My concern is if the state's going to pass a law, they should be funding it. And that's the biggest. So I'm just looking at folks that are on fixed incomes, on lower incomes, that they will bear the brunt of this. Certainly everybody on this call probably can handle this rate increase without too much trouble, but we're raising the cost of living again in California by doing this. And we are, on the one hand, we say we want affordable housing, and then we do this kind of stuff, add solar, we just raise the cost of living in California. And it's really affects more than anybody. It affects the people that are at risk for homelessness. Everything is connected here. And while it may feel good to eliminate some of this greenhouse gases that come from the landfills, what is the real impact? I don't think, and this is part of what the protest should be about, is sending a message to our elected officials, which I did check, and this is a completely partisan vote. Every Democrat voted for it and every Republican voted against it. And back in 2016, including our own Ken Cooley voted for this. Anyhow, but I want to roll back to a couple of things you've said, Mary, and please don't take this personally, but I don't think Republic Services is picking up batteries anymore.
They do pick up batteries. You put them in a Ziploc or a zip top bag and set them on your recycling cart, and they pick them up on Recycle Week.
Okay, I was at an Area 10 meeting where there was a Republic Services person there. A young man said that they've had too many fires in the trucks and that they no longer pick up batteries.
Yeah,
So
that's not the
probably
case
need
in
some training.
Yeah, not the maybe they do have a lot of new staff over at Republic, but that's not the case in Citrus Heights.
Okay.
We are continuing to pick up batteries on recycle day as long as they're in the bag and they follow the guidelines that are in your calendars.
Yeah, you got to put tape over those 9-volt batteries or they catch fire.
Okay.
Thank you for
if there's-
checking
Thank
on
you.
that.
If there's no further comment from council members, I will turn it over to Amy for any public comment. And officially open our public hearing.
So Mayor, I do have one written comment that I would like to go ahead and read first, and then I do see 2 raised hands that I'll take those momentarily. So
Okay.
first, I'll begin from Roger Johnson, who states 2 rate increases in a 6-month period does not make sense. The second rate increase actually increases the first increase. Please inform the public in detail what the cost per can size is per each type of can. This is a huge increase for those of us that are seniors, veterans, immigrants, and living on fixed incomes. Please reconsider. Thank you and be well. Now to the raised hands on Zoom. I will start with John M. You are now able to unmute yourself and speak, and if you could just state your name for the record.
Yes, I'm John Kane. And it was my pleasure and blessing to be with Councilwoman Bruins at a water rate increase hearing many years ago. And if Mary can hear me, was Mary outside the city hall this evening?
Yes.
Well, we have met 10 years ago at a POP meeting. So I think most of the council members, which I really appreciate, basically what me and my wife and my family have done is this rate increase, along with all the other increases that we're facing. I really appreciated what, not Mr. Miller, the gentleman, my notes are mixed up. The gentleman mentioned that if the state mandates it, the state should pay for it. We have the highest cost of living, the highest gas taxes. We right now have SB 1400 where they want to double our income tax. I understand that there's a lot of costs involved in this, and I appreciate Mary's excellent presentation. It was short, it was good, it was clear. You know, it's a state law. Our city's in a situation, but I want the council to know, I talked to every one of my neighbors. Not a single one knew about this rate increase. There's only 3 people outside the city hall tonight. So I have a feeling we're not going to make that 50% majority. But as a citizen of this city for 12 years, I'm a homeowner, I'm a registered voter. With what's going on in our country, with the, you know, we can talk all day about partisan politics if we want, but I only have 1 minute, 16 seconds. But I appreciate the city council. Miss Bruin and I have talked many times at the post office. I really appreciate the work that you all do trying to make this city what it is. But I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm going to become a political activist. This gentleman that the comment you just read, this is going to be a 3.5% increase every year. So on top of this 20% increase, in just a little while, we'll have another 3.5% increase. I would strongly recommend to the council that we find a way to reduce this increase to a more manageable increase. And I know that I'm not as involved as Ms. Poole, but I am against this increase at the level that it's at. And I think we're stuck in many respects. I'm telling you, there's not a single neighbor I talked to that even knew about this rate increase. So we got to do what we got to do, but I'm against it. And you now have a citizen, a voting registered voter in your city that is going to become politically active and do all that I can to stop the continued infringement. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker is Glenda Green. You can now unmute yourself to speak for 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to the City of Citrus Heights for working hard to meet the requirements of SB 1383. I wanted to state that I'm in favor of composting, and I'm actually really excited that we will have municipal composting. I actually do composting here at my house, and during the summer and during the winter, it's really hard because all my worms die. Anyways, I'm really excited about the municipal composting opportunity. I think the rate increase seems reasonable considering the increase of service that we will have. And looking at the rates, it seems like if people have a 96 gallon currently, if they go down to a 64 gallon because all of their organics are now not going in the trash but going into that green waste, they will actually stay almost at the same rate. So I think that the City of Citrus Heights could do a better job of educating people that, hey, this is an increase of service and that you'll be able to move a lot of your garbage, right, stuff that you throw away right now, into those organics bins. And so then you can actually reduce your can size so that this increase won't affect you as much. So I think that's something that we could reach out to our community and explain to people. I'd also like to see, like so many council people said, that there is a concern about increasing costs for lower income residents. Perhaps we could investigate a separate program for certain low income residents that they would get either just a reduction of rates, or certain rates would be reduced for this. And I do want to say also that I would like to see encouragement of restaurants to switch to like waxed paper that can be composted. In the days of COVID, everybody's doing takeout, everybody's getting food to go because we're not eating inside of restaurants. And so having those compostable food containers, I think, would be a huge benefit. I know that Crepes and Burgers, for example, already does that, which I love Crepes and Burgers. They're great. Sorry, this is public comment. I probably shouldn't say I have no affiliation with them. I just think they're awesome. Anyways, I think less styrofoam would be a good thing. I love composting. I think it's the way of the future, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, the end.
Okay, we have Bridget Duffy. You can now unmute yourself to speak for 3 minutes.
Hello, again, Bridget Duffy. Nice to be here. This is an outrage on so many levels. I don't even know if 3 minutes is enough. But for one thing, yes, John is right. Nobody knows about this. I went down the street, asked a bunch of people that were waiting to pick up their children from public school. Nobody knows about this. I know the city has made an effort, but the effort didn't work. So what is the logistics behind that? You can't make the rate raise without the public's approval. And I, as well as many other people will testify that people do not know about this. The other thing is it's supposed to lower carbon emissions. Meanwhile, we're going to give $2 million more per year collectively as people of Citrus Heights to the garbage company. Meanwhile, they're taking our recycling and they're trucking it down to outside the Bay Area, over 2-hour drive back and forth with all of our recycling. Now, if we want to lower our our carbon emissions, wouldn't it make much more sense to use that $2 million or, the other millions of dollars that we give Republic to actually create a recycling center that is within a reasonable, miles, so that we're reducing our our carbon emissions just by not trucking the recycling. And also the recycling right now, as far as I know, I believe it's still being shipped overseas, and that is all being mishandled because they're shipping it to small little islands in the middle of the Pacific that can't handle this amount of plastic, and it's winding up in the ocean. So basically, recycling is something we're supposed to be doing to help the environment, but currently it is not helping the environment. When we put plastic into our recycling bins, we might as well be throwing it right into the ocean. And that is not good. That's not what anybody wants. So to me, I'm like, we're giving the garbage company a $2 million a year raise collectively. And yet, what are they providing? Another green waste bin. I love composting. I do it in my backyard. Everybody could do it in their backyard. The recycling issue is the big issue as far as the carbon is I'm concerned. It's not only carbon, it's plastic. So I know you're going to go ahead and do this because not enough people have protested, but nobody knows about it. So legally, can you really put a rate increase upon a population who has no idea that you're doing it? I don't think it's legal to do that. So I hope you don't do it. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. And Mayor, at this time, I do not see any other raised hands. So since it appears that we have no further members of the public wishing to speak, I just remind the public, this is the last opportunity to submit a written protest to the city. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay, well, seeing as there's no further speakers, I will go ahead and close the public hearing.
And Mayor, now that we have closed the public hearing, staff requests that we continue this item to later in the meeting to allow us to tally the written protests received, and we will announce the results when we are completed. So with that, we would ask to move on to the next item.
Okay, next item, please.
The next item is regular calendar, item number 10. The subject is annual comprehensive financial report. The recommendation is for City Council to accept and file the City of Citrus Heights annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm Bill Zanoni, Interim Administrative Services Director. The item before you this evening is acceptance of the city's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. This document, which was included in your agenda packet, is divided into 3 sections. The first is the introductory section. The main section of this report is the financial section, and that includes the auditor's letter to the City Council, which begins on page 1. The management discussion and analysis, which begins on page 5. And this section, this 12-page overview and summary, if you look at nothing else in this document and want to kind of get a good Cliff Notes summary of the city's financial activities, I would highly recommend at least reading the management's discussion and analysis. And then the main section is the audited financial statements, which begin on page 17. And in the very back, beginning on page 137, is 10 statistical information that covers a 10-year period with financial trends on revenue, debt capacity, and demographic and other economic information for the city. So the city's annual financial audit this year was conducted by the accounting firm of Lance, Soul, and Lungard. This was a very thorough audit, and it was resulted in an unqualified audit opinion. The annual comprehensive financial report was reviewed in a fair amount of detail by the Finance and Administration Committee on January 11th. So this evening, we have Brandon Young, the partner with Lance Solon Lundgaard, who oversaw this audit here, and Brandon will give you a brief overview from the auditor's perspective of the audit and of the auditor's findings. So, Brandon?
All right, hold on one sec. I'm trying to get this, see if I can get this PowerPoint. I've only done this about 100 times and I still can't figure it out. All right. All right, are you guys seeing the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then let's go with that. All right, so thanks, Bill, for the introduction. So as Bill said, my name is Brandon Young. I'm a partner with LSL CPAs out of our Sacramento location. This is our third year working with the city. We've built a really good routine working relationship with the city, with Raj, Bill, and their whole team. It's been a very, I don't want to say an audit's never an easy process, but it's been seamless working with them. We do ask a lot of questions and ask for a lot of documents every year. They've provided it really without question, very seamlessly. So I'll go through kind of the results of the audit and a little bit of our process. And then any questions specific to the audit process or the financials themselves, I'm happy to answer either during the presentation or after the fact, whatever works for you guys. So as Bill mentioned, we're the external CPA firm, meaning we're performing a financial audit of the city's essentially finances every year, which culminates to the document you guys have in front of you. So it's conducted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and governmental auditing standards. A government audit has some different requirements. Essentially, a government audit versus a private company audit, there is an additional focus on getting an understanding of the internal processes and internal controls of the city. It's always part of our risk assessment and kind of part of how we analyze procedures and look for recommendations to make sure that things are kind of flowing properly, and that any errors would be caught by the city's processes before they kind of fall through the cracks. So the process overall starts with the interim audit. The interim audit, we typically do anywhere between April and June, depending on scheduling. That's where we're essentially doing walkthroughs. 3 years ago, before all this hit, we were there in person, sitting behind, looking over people's shoulders, actually walking through transactions. Now we do it just like this. We share screens. We get an understanding of how they process things like cash receipts, cash disbursements, how they track capital asset activity, how they're tracking any grants. Obviously now it's tracking CARES Act funding, ARPA funding, things of that nature. And then we're essentially using that to see if there's any recommendations that we need to kind of recommend that they implement, and also see if there's any areas that we should obviously kind of have an element of surprise tests and design our procedures for the audit period. We do that during the summer, do our risk assessment, and then our year-end audit is anywhere between usually September, October. That's when we're doing an account analysis. We're asking a lot of analytical questions based on variance, kind of any fluctuations, expectations on revenue numbers, expenditure numbers. We're confirming bank accounts. We're performing cutoff procedures to make sure things are recorded in the proper period. We're testing bank reconciliations, capital asset additions, disbursements. Really, it's a very deep dive kind of into the city finances to make sure that the numbers in the documents you have in front of you are properly supported, properly tested, and kind of substantiated throughout the course of the year, and that everything is reported as accurately as it can be. What that culminates to is an opinion letter. It's in the document. It's usually the first page of the basic financial statements that Bill mentioned himself. So the city received an unmodified opinion this year, which is the opinion you want to receive. What that means is the numbers in front of you essentially were able to be verified without any items we had to either materially adjust or that we kind of could not get support for. So the opinion letter is basic audit language, that it's the letter you want. The longer that letter gets and kind of the more information included in there, usually the more cause for concern. We've never had an issue with that with Citrus Heights over the last 3 years. So it's a good letter. It's what you want to hear. Other communications that we are required to kind of issue as part of the financial statement process. There is a report on internal controls that if you've not been provided yet, it will be provided at some point, or it's available for you. If there were ever any findings or adjustments we had to have or processes that we felt, there's two categories of essentially findings or internal control findings. There's a material weakness and a significant deficiency. How we assess those is both qualitative and quantitative. Sometimes there's just dollar amounts of errors that we have to disclose as findings, or there is processes that need enhancement. This year, there was no items to note, which is wrote you on. It was a very successful audit, very thorough, and everything that we selected and asked was substantiated, documented, properly recorded by Bill Raj and their team. So nothing to report on that end. Other required communications as part of the audit process. If there were ever any change in accounting policies, unusual transactions, we would want to kind of call them out separately to make sure that you're kind of aware of what those were and how they were kind of tested and disclosed in the document. Nothing of that nature this year. The two significant accounting estimates, which you always are aware of, which are the main topics in the state these days, are the net pension and OPEB liability. Those numbers obviously are calculated by third-party actuaries using a variety of assumptions, discount rates, mortality rates, inflation rates, and they swing year to year, really with not much any local government can do to control those numbers. So for this year's financial statement for 2021, the pension liability is measured as of June 30, 2020. So that was the year that CalPERS had a rate of return, I think, of around 4%. So in 2021, I think they were around, I want to say it was around 10%. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But so what that means is that you will probably see a drop in the pension liability in next year's financial statements. And also CalPERS is changing the way that they are allocating the assets next year. So what that means is they are trying to get closer to that target of 7% that they've had for years. And I think they're planning on dropping the discount rate to like 6.8 in the next couple of years. So the number will kind of continuously swing and move, and contributions will go up year to year. So hopefully they level out here in the next 5-6 years, but it is a moving target. So I'm rambling now, but everyone else asked about pensions. So essentially what we do with those numbers is we make sure that they're properly disclosed, properly reflected in the financials. And that is kind of the extent of our test work on them. They're calculated by either CalPERS or a third-party actuary using those assumptions. And so we are essentially making sure that they're properly reflected. If there were any disagreements with management, they were either not forthcoming with information, they didn't want to provide documents we asked for, we would be required to disclose them and let you all know. We've never had anything even close to that, so nothing to report there. There were no adjustments we had to make. The trial balance that we received for the audit process was already thoroughly vetted and kind of analyzed by city staff. So it was kind of very easy to work through. So nothing to report there. If there ever were any items that we found that were considered trivial or immaterial, that were not reflected, they would be recorded on what's called like a past adjustment. We have had those in the past. This year we didn't have any, so there's nothing in the letter that you see. And the last two things that I wanted to touch on, obviously the difference in the name. It was brought to GASB's attention that the term CAFR was an offensive term in South Africa, so they changed the name to ACFR instead of CAFR. It's the same report, nothing else in the document has changed. It's just a name change. And then the new accounting standard this year that was not a really significant impact to the city is GASB 84. So previously, if you really paid close detail to the financial statements, you would have saw something called an agency fund in the fiduciary fund statements. It's now called the custodial fund, and there's an equity section that previously was not there before, which was a significant impact to counties, some larger agencies, but to you all, it should not really change much of what you've seen in the past. So that essentially was the primary GASB pronouncement this year. There is one coming down the pipe that I didn't include in the PowerPoint that I now just thought of. So GASB 87. Also, I don't think the city has a ton of leases, but essentially for those in the private world, the term operating and capital lease is going to be going away next year, and they're going to be reflecting them all the same way, just with the intent of kind of showing every commitment or contract that the city is on the hook for lack of a better way to describe it. So you might see some changes next year in disclosures and the way leases are recorded, but I don't think that the city has a significant amount of leases. Bill can kind of chime in and correct me if I'm wrong on that. So that is the result of the audit for 2021. Another successful year. We really enjoy working with the city and continue to work with them, hopefully for at least 2 more years, hopefully longer. So but any questions you guys have about the audit process itself, or any financial statement numbers or disclosures, I'm happy to answer them now.
Are there any questions?
No, I'll just make a comment. We did review this in the finance committee, And I just want to applaud Bill and his crew, his staff, Raj, for basically submitting a flawless report. No errors, no comments, nothing. So I think that's the first time that I'm aware of that there wasn't at least a comment. So thank you for your hard work, and thank you, Brandon, for your presentation.
If there are no further comments, what is the pleasure of the council?
This is, isn't this just a receive and file?
Is it?
That's correct. This is no
Oh.
action, just accept
Okay.
the report.
All right. Thank you for that correction. Next item.
All right, thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Mayor, at this
Yes.
time, I would just like to let you know that we have completed the tally of the protest for the public hearing, item number 9. If the council desires, we can consider that item now or wait till we finish with the remainder of the items.
Would you all like to go ahead and do this now?
Why not?
Okay.
So relating to the public hearing, item number 9 on the residential garbage recycling and organic waste services, the city of Citrus Heights received written documents, a written protest of 108 written protests. Therefore, there are not a sufficient number of protests to constitute a majority protest. Therefore, at this time, council can take action on the resolution that was before them.
Mayor, a couple questions and comments.
Okay, go ahead.
Just responding to some of the speaker questions. And one was that we didn't notify anybody. And page 95 and 96 of our agenda shows the postcard that went out to every resident in the city. And I know I saw it. The other one was comment that the raises would be 3.5%. And I just want to clarify that's up to 3.5%. It depends on the consumer price index. And so if that doesn't go up, the rates won't go up, but that's built in to take care of inflation and the cost of living increases, which we keep propagating. First of all, I want to commend staff and Republic Services for really working hard to minimize the additional costs and still keeping Citrus Heights the lowest in the region because of this. Now, this bill that was passed, Senate Bill 1383, it's about a 25 increase in our rates. And I really like what Vice Mayor Schaefer said about the cost of living and affordable housing. It just, I don't think the legislature gets it. They want affordable housing, but they just keep increasing the cost of everything. One of the things that occurred to me, because we are just talking fees tonight, and I really want to do something to strongly object to this unfunded mandate. And I know I'm jumping a little ahead in the agenda, but I was going to ask if there was support from 2 other council members to do a resolution, a strongly worded resolution, objecting to this Senate bill and pass that along to the legislature. I know it won't do any good, but at least it's, if they don't get it, and maybe an accompanying letter or background. So I'll leave it at that. I know I was just looking to see if there was support to put that on a future agenda.
Can we just wait till the end of the meeting when we do that kind of thing?
Yes,
Sure.
let's please wait.
Sure.
And if there are no other comments by
Let me
council.
finish. Let me
Oh,
finish.
sorry.
I think. So I really feel I don't have a choice. We don't have a choice in this fee increase. And I certainly wouldn't be foolish enough to vote no and risk $10,000 a day fine. But again, and I'll talk about it later, I do want to protest the increase in regulations that we're seeing today. So with that, I'm done.
I'd like to make a couple of comments if I could.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You know, this has, the unfunded mandate mentality has been in our state legislature for a long time. This is not the first unfunded mandate that we have had to act on and that our citizens have been asked to bear. And so I asked the question earlier, what are the options? Where else could we find the money? And we don't have $2 million in our budget that could be reallocated to cover this. We just don't have it. And then Ms. Duffy made the comment about Republic getting an extra $2 million. Well, yes, that is true, but they're not going to be able to keep $2 million. That's to offset their expenses to respond to this as well. And nobody is happy about this. I concur with Steve that we really are between a rock and a hard spot. If we vote this down, we still have to do it. We just get fined up to $10,000 a day if we refuse to do it. And so my overarching message is that we need to change things at the state level. If we are really serious about being activists, as John said earlier, that's where it's got to start, because we are just at the local level in a position where we have to respond to what our legislators are doing on the state level. And so I encourage people to let their voice be known. And when Steve brings up this resolution at the end of the meeting, it gives us an opportunity to start with the city council to express our concern and our disapproval of this ongoing action of rolling down unfunded mandates to the local level and then letting us figure out how it's going to happen. Thank you.
I couldn't agree with more, Jeannie, with what you said, and same with you, Steve. Are there any other comments?
Yes, I have a couple.
Go ahead.
And I'll try to keep it brief.
Thank you.
So yes, I just want to reiterate what Councilmember Miller and Bruins said. This is really outrageous. It is so conflicted all over the place with adding the truck that's going to create more carbon and generate more pollution, driving around picking these things up, the amount of waste that most households, I understand restaurants generate a lot of waste. It's my understanding that that animal waste still goes into the garbage cart. If you think you know food waste is generating methane, I would be willing to bet that animal waste generates more methane in the landfill than any food waste will. So this piece of legislation is absolutely just so conflicted and so misguided. But I understand the consequences of not voting for this. I'm also a little disappointed, more than a little disappointed, that I did myself reached out to folks and asked them to send protest letters in, and 108 people. That's not even. It's pretty disappointing. So if people aren't going to make their voices heard, I don't know what else we can do. And I understand when I got the postcard in the mail. I'm holding it up here. You can't really see it because anyway, when I got the postcard in the mail, I looked at it really briefly and I almost threw it out. I almost just tossed it in the trash because I didn't realize what it was. And then I started thinking about it like, oh, wait a second, what was that? And I started looking at it. And one of the things that I would argue about how we approach this, we showed the January, we produced this in December, and we showed the January rates, which is we had a rate increase that happened in January, and then we have another rate increase that happened. We don't compare it to the current rate. But that's not that, and that's not to slight Mary or her team or the Republic Services folks. You guys have worked really, really hard. I scrutinized the contract to a degree that I probably read it. I don't know how many times I read it. I read it a lot, over and over and over, certain sections of it to see if I could find some place where, we could mitigate some of this. But ultimately, I agree with Jeannie. This what does reside with our elected officials, and yet we continue to elect the same people over and over and over again, no matter what outrageous things that they do. So while I'm gonna vote yes on this, just because it's not a choice, not really a choice, but I would definitely be interested in further action. Thank you.
Mr. Daniels, anything from you?
Yes, thank you very much. All I've heard tonight is reasons why not to support this. It's remarkable. I'm surprised we actually got that many written protests back because of the fashion that how this process works, and the way that Tim mentioned it, that, it almost is something that you look at and go like, okay, yeah, garbage, and then it goes in the garbage. I would definitely think that if we had sent out a process that had a, question, mark the box yes or no, and, paid return postage, I feel comfortable that the community would tell us no. When we talk about, well, we're stuck, it's a mandate, it's unfunded, and I appreciate Mary taking the time to, I think, say it at least 3 times. Why does it matter? What does it even matter then if it's unfunded? If we're not going to make the state at some point follow the rules, what does it even matter if it's funded or unfunded? And, not to be too dramatic about it, but I almost feel like it's similar to the day when they dumped the tea into the Boston Harbor and said no to a very small tax. Feel like, why don't we just take our garbage cans down to the Capitol and dump them out and tell them, no, we're not doing it. And so, is there another way to pay for this? Well, yeah, there is. There's a state who's now recording basically the largest surpluses that they've had in forever, and they're searching for ways to give money back, to spend money, I should say. And it's just unfortunate that, again, as Tim mentioned, our leaders, our so-called leaders, haven't had the ability to step up and say, well, you're mandating things to communities and citizens and cities. Why don't we pay for them? So the money's there, the process is there, and it just boils down to, what are we going to do about it? What's Sacramento going to do about it? What Folsom's going to do about it? What Stockton's going to do about it? And I think for the most part, as communities or entities, we're all going to do the same thing. We're going to roll over and take it. We're just going to roll over and take it. But because, oh my God, look, some genius put in there that they're going to fine us up to $10,000 a day. So I'm not going to support it. I know it's going to pass, but again, guys, at some point, we're also elected to be the voice of the community. And, I can guarantee you the community doesn't support this. And it's unfortunate that, if somebody's going to just look at the process that we went through with the ability to protest it as some sort of signal, it's not at all. And at some point, are we going to push back? Or are we just going to let ourselves be pushed around? So that's it. I know it'll move forward. And the only other thing I need to say is on my computer right now, I've lost my ability to mute and unmute and video and no video. And hopefully I won't be joined by a 5-year-old who wants to have some input here shortly.
Okay. I think that's enough discussion. What's the pleasure of the council?
So I'll sit in the hot seat here, and I will reluctantly vote that we affirm the rate increase that we've discussed and move the item.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Bruin, second by Miller. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
No.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
No.
and Mayor Middleton.
Aye. 3 yeses, 2 nos. Item passes. Next item, please.
Next item is a regular calendar, item number 11. The subject is approval of Economic Development Support Fund grant request by the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a $14,848 economic development grant for the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce from the Economic Development Support Fund, Part 1.
Good evening, Mayor Middleton and members of City Council. Megan Huber, Economic Development and Communications Manager. The item before you this evening is something that has an annual history with us since fiscal year 2012-2013, utilizing our Economic Development Support Fund, which is a small pot of funding available to spur economic development activity, execute sponsorships and grants that further our economic development goals. I will give a short overview of the request along with some context, and then turn it over to the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Diane Ebbett, who is here with us this evening to provide you an update and answer any questions. I mentioned we have a long-standing sponsorship history with the Citrus Heights Chamber. We do participate annually in their Chairman's Circle sponsorship program. This year is a little bit different, a little bit more enhanced. This request this fiscal year includes a $10,000 Chairman's sponsorship request, as well as a request in the amount of $4,848. And that is an annual amount to host monthly luncheons at our Citrus Heights Community Center. If council recalls, I know many of you attend. The Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce hosts monthly business luncheons where folks, our business community, can hear relevant topics and updates from the chamber and network and commune with each other. So the chamber is looking to host that at our Citrus Heights Community Center. The sponsorship, in addition of those dollars, is a grand total request of $14,848. This sponsorship request was reviewed by the Finance Committee and has full support, and it is now before you for consideration. With that, unless there are any questions from council so far, I will go ahead and turn it over to Diane.
Thank you, Megan. Mayor Middleton and City Council members. Yes, Diane Ebbett, the Executive Director of the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce, and I am here today to ask you to support the Citrus Heights Chamber of Commerce. I'm asking, as Megan has said, for a total of $14,848. $10,000 of it for the diamond sponsorship, and $4,848 for the South Room ABC at the Community Center for our monthly lunches. Currently, our chamber is holding our monthly lunches outside of Citrus Heights, and we would prefer to hold them inside Citrus Heights. However, the only place large enough to accommodate the lunches is the Community Center. Therefore, we are asking the Economic Development Department to sponsor the South Room at the center. By us using the center, it will show a strong partnership between the chamber and the city. It will give us the opportunity, and I think this is very important, to use different restaurants and caterers inside Citrus Heights. We will be able to go to the different restaurants and ask them to please cater our lunches for the chamber. We will also bring people into the center and also that are in the surrounding areas. Every year we have what's called a power lunch with 3 different chamber members, and we would hold that again at the community center. Right now we have to hold it at a restaurant, and there's only one restaurant that can accommodate us, and it didn't work well last year. So we are asking for your support. Now, I do have a short PowerPoint that I would like to show the council that highlights the 2021 accomplishments and our 2022 goals. So I'm going to share screen. And do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see it as a slideshow? There we go. Okay. Okay, so first, our chamber 2022 objectives are, yes, to increase our membership, increase member participation at our events, increase business partnerships, and by doing that, we want to build leadership in our community. We want to hold a signature event. Our current chair wants to create a citywide business directory. And then we also want to increase business education. Our new chamber programs that we put together is every new member receives an interview. And we post that on our website, or I'm sorry, in our newsletter and on Facebook. We do have a weekly networking breakfast that we are holding at Perco's on Sunrise and Greenback. Every new member receives a ribbon cutting, which Member Bruins has been attending. And then every new member receives an e-blast. Our membership over last year increased chamber membership, 65 new members, average 6 new members per month, which is the largest average increase in 3 years. And following is a list of the businesses that joined us in 2022. And it's important to talk about DG Smith Enterprises. He owns Taco Bell, Hot Dog on Stick, and the Pretzel store in the mall. Almond Heights, we actually had a joint mixer between Orangeville, Fair Oaks, and us. So we do things to try and bring other members into our city, not just our city here. Our stats for 2021 is we did have 21 ribbon cuttings, 24 member video interviews. We gave away 15 free e-blasts to nonprofits. We acquired 5 new board members. And we also had about 11 news articles in the Citrus Heights News Messenger and the Sentinel. Our partnerships. Megan, she and I meet twice a month and we talk about things that are going on with the city. We participate in ABBA, the Auburn Boulevard Business Association, and we are trying to put together a Taco Tuesday. And also, I would like to invite you all to an event that ABBA is putting on February 22nd, 2022. And it's going to be a mixer for all of the businesses there on Auburn Boulevard. So we are inviting them. We partnered with the city to educate and remind businesses of the recycle regulations for business. Mary Poole and I, she spoke along with Atlas, Republic, and Waste Management. They were all there. Then we also again invited Republic Services, Anna Rulon, at our November lunch to talk about the exact situation that you were talking about with the recycling. We want, even though we're business, we also know that a lot of our business owners live in Citrus Heights, so I want to make them aware of the new regulations. We do participate in the Mayor's Connect Citrus Heights, and we help the city communicate special announcements such as surveys and so forth. Our events, February 18th, it was small, but we held a rally to reopen California. March 12th, we did have our Community Appreciation Awards via Facebook. We honored a police officer and a firefighter of the year. And at that time, Mayor Steve Miller spoke. Best of Citrus Heights, we did voting. between April and May, and we had the event in June. May 22nd, we had a very successful drive-in concert. We raised $20,000 to give back to the city of Citrus Heights. In our luncheon, July luncheon, we had interim city manager Chris Boyd speak, and then at our August luncheon, Chief Ron Lawrence. We had a very successful elected officials reception, which Congressman Ami Bera attended, and Mayor Steve Miller. We had a very successful job fair event at Sunrise Mall. We participated in Powell's Trunk or Treat and participated in Miracle Forest at the tree lighting. Our events again for 2022, and we just had our installation dinner, and those of you who came, thank you very much. We are going to have our cornhole tournament, which is February 18th. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you all can attend. We are going to have another job fair, hoping our Taco Tuesday for ABBA and other elected officials. And we are trying to figure out a signature event to bring people into Citrus Heights. Our community involvement is, we made a donation to Single Mom Strong. We are members under the corporate membership with the Rotary Club of Citrus Heights. We participated in giving away over 65,000 N95 masks for the County of Sacramento. We were the only chamber, although all were asked, we were the only ones at that time that said yes, and we gave away 65,000. I am a board member of HEART, Citrus Heights HEART. We did help collect candy for the Powell's Trunk or Treat. We helped collect toys for Toys for the Troop kids, and I am a volunteer on the Citrus Heights Police Department. Do you have any questions?
No question. Just a comment real quick.
Sure.
I just really want to thank Diane for the work she's doing. The chamber's success is critical to the city's success, and I just want to express, I greatly appreciate the fact that you're moving the luncheons into Citrus Heights. That is a big deal to me, and it's part of why I'm going to fully support your request tonight. But I just wanted to make sure that I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And real quick, in my notes, I just want to say that the chamber will support your protest resolution all the way. Yeah, we've got to. Are there any more questions?
Nope. Thank you, Diane.
All right, thank you.
All right, if there's no questions or discussion, what is the pleasure of the council?
I would move the item.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, that was a quick one.
3 seconds.
Motion by Daniels, and I'll give the second to Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
A big yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item is the regular calendar, item number 12. The subject is Citrus Heights Small Business COVID Recovery Grant Program approval. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution establishing the Citrus Heights Small Business COVID Recovery Grant Program and approving an amendment to the fiscal year 21-22 budget.
Good evening again, Mayor Middleton and members of City Council. Megan Huber, Economic Development and Communications Manager, before you one more time this evening, along with my colleague, Bill Zanoni, Interim Finance Director. We are closing the loop from the presentation that you received from us last council meeting, which, if council recalls, was an update on the newly published final guidelines of the American Rescue Plan Act. As a reminder, We broke down the changes in funding allocations of the little more than 15 million that the City of Citrus Heights has received, and received direction from City Council to create a ARPA Small Business COVID Recovery Small Business Grant Program in the COVID recovery dollar allocation amount as it stands under final guidelines of about $320,000. Council has received the guidelines in the City Council packet this evening. I am going to go through some quick highlights here for you now. For a business to be eligible for this small business grant program, it must be a commercial physical business located and licensed in Citrus Heights and operational as of March 1st, 2020, and still in business and has intention to remain open. The business entity needed to have earned $3 million in annual revenue or less in calendar year 2019 and experienced a net revenue loss of at least 25% year over year in the 2 years since onset of COVID. Business also needs to employ 20 full-time equivalent employees or less as of March 1st, 2020 to ensure with this program, we are focusing on small business. If a business qualifies, these are the recommended grant amounts based on the 2019 annual gross revenue bracket of the business. You can see it is 3 tiers in appropriately ranged grant amounts, with a wide array of eligible expenses to assist small business with COVID recovery. So these funds can be used for anything from general business operations to payroll expenses. We're also really excited about the possibility of utilizing funding for facade and outdoor improvements to be able to increase COVID resiliency, especially for businesses that needed to increase operations outside, like restaurants and similar. Also, PPE and other costs of compliance with county, state, or federal requirements, as well as technical assistance to help with business planning needs. I know we know this, but as a reminder, ineligible expenses would be anything outside of the scope as it relates to COVID-19 mitigation or to fund any other business than is receiving the grant. In terms of program administration, should the council approve the program guidelines and associated documents before you this evening, staff will work to create a streamlined and expedited application process. We will have that launched in the next 30 calendar days, with the initial application period, being for 30 calendar days. As we discussed last council meeting, this is an initial program, and we will be assessing further ARPA funding allocations with City Council in a study session in the coming months. So we'll be really excited to present data on how this program was received, by whom, if it would be undersubscribed or oversubscribed, so council can take that into account for the strategic planning and forecasting of these one-time pivotal funds. Staff commits to really robust program promotion. We're extremely lucky to have strong, comprehensive communications channels that we'll be able to share this on, including email, social, local and regional media relations. We also have a really supportive and robust partner network that we can utilize. The Chamber of Commerce, who you just heard from, as well as our PBIDs, business associations, and more that will make sure are well armed with this information to share with businesses who may need it. Our goal is to create as streamlined a process as possible. We are looking forward to offering an online application process to help expedite things for our businesses. We will also have a paper option should businesses not have ready online access. We anticipate required documents, including a business license certificate, applicable tax returns, as well as a W-9. We will review the application and supporting materials, and then final determination of business eligibility and grant amount will take place with a potential discretionary review, like I mentioned, if the the program ends up being over leveraged. So in conclusion, staff recommends approval of the guidelines and resolution before you, and I will open it up for any questions.
Any discussion from council?
Just want to make
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jeannie.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I just want to make the comment that the funds that we are approving tonight is an immediate approval for going forward with this new business recovery program. And that when we have our strategic planning session, further support of the business community could very well come out of that as well. So this is not the only opportunity we're going to look at to provide funding. So once we have the comprehensive session, we'll take a look at that again, and then we'll, fortunately have data from Megan to show what the initial response has been, and that'll help guide our actions as we go forward. Thank you.
So I have a
Vice Mayor
question.
Schaefer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So Megan, have you looked at the barriers that could be associated with folks not being thrilled about providing their tax returns to our city? And if they don't want to provide a tax return because they're going to get a check for it, but would there be an alternative for them to identify a project that they could do to facilitate getting a grant versus not having to provide a tax return?
That's a great question, Councilmember Schaefer. I'm going to let Bill take the first part, given the technical nature of the finance forms, and then I'll take the second of other ways we could potentially assist.
In talking to other public agencies requiring tax returns, at least for a business, the Schedule C seems to be the normal procedure. If the council does not want to do that, we could, I'm assuming we could, require at least the last several digits of like a block out the beginning if there's a concern about providing Social Security numbers or taxpayer ID numbers, but we need something to verify income, pre-pandemic income, and the impact of the pandemic, and that is really the only way to do it.
Quick question, Bill.
Sure.
How much, is this going to be public information that they turn over to us? And you mentioned redacting information. So under the Public Records Act, is this information, would this fall as confidential? Maybe it's more of a question for our attorney, Ryan.
I think Ryan has already just opined on that, right, Ryan?
Yeah. We did discuss this before, and unfortunately, you can redact information. We redact things like Social Security numbers or tax IDs, but information about how much somebody had made, that information would not be redacted. There's not an exception to the Public Records Act for that.
And Councilmember Schaefer, I want to make sure to loop back to the second part of your question in terms of, finding alternative ways to assist businesses if that does end up being a significant barrier for some folks. I want to acknowledge we do talk to other cities in the region frequently, especially to share notes in deploying relatively unprecedented programs like this. And what I've heard from colleagues is that hasn't been much of a concern, which is reassuring. However, please know that we will keep all collective eyes and ears open if there are any businesses that are falling through the cracks. Make sure to record that data and bring it back to you at the study session that was referenced earlier, so that we can continue to stay nimble and creative and make sure that we are helping the businesses who need it. One example of that, for instance, I highlighted that CEPTED line item before, crime prevention through environmental design and outdoor improvements. That's something I could see very easily utilizing our existing facade support programs like Activate Auburn and translating those mechanics to another potential program. So know that we have ideas and information at the ready to stay nimble and adaptive.
Thank you, Megan. And Bill.
Just a quick question or two.
Go ahead, Brett.
So we're asking them to provide these documents such as a tax return, obviously to see a documentation, if you will, of a loss. I'm wondering, is it, I mean, again, and then these documents would get attached, I guess, to the application, which then lets them fall within, public view. I'm wondering, do we have to attach, or do we have to even receive these documents, or can they simply go through an examination process where then, the documentation is the number that they show as their loss? Do we absolutely need to have the document itself as an attachment, or is an examination sufficient?
I can respond to that. We need to be in a position that the city is ultimately responsible for the proper disposition of these funds. So we need to make sure that we have the documentation if and when the U.S. Treasury comes and does an audit, that we're dispersing these funds to the businesses that were impacted by COVID. So to protect the city, I believe we would need to have documentation, because it could be a year, it could be 5 years, and before they decide to come and audit our program.
Okay, and then the only thing I'd add is that I'm not real comfortable with the percentages, the amount of loss necessary, the number of employees, all of that. But I'll go ahead and support the concept tonight. But I hope that we can have some flexibility if we are getting some word that there was some folks that could have taken advantage of this opportunity, but they were right on the edge, whether it be with the number of employees or the amount of loss. Because certainly I think it was said that the minimum loss has to be 25%. Is that what it was?
Correct.
And then, yeah, I mean, if I lost 24%, I'm still hurting. If I lost 20%, I'm hurting. A lot of these, especially these mom and pops, they don't operate with, very much margin. And, they were hurt by losses less than 25%, I'm sure. But, if we could at least know that we had some flexibility with all of this, we hopefully can come back and modify it if we need to.
Yeah. And just to add on to Brett's comments, I was just curious what parameters you used to come up with the methodology, or what methodology you used to come up with the parameters, is what I meant to say. Was that based on some data, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apologies, Jeannie. We're lucky to have other city colleagues in the Sacramento region that are standing up these programs. So we've been able to learn from their exploration. Many of the data points are common best practice or proven thresholds with California and local COVID recovery grant programs. So you'll find that these are very common thresholds for jurisdictions deploying small business COVID recovery dollars. Some jurisdictions are tailoring it even more in standing up sub-segments of target and non-target industry segments. We know that Citrus Heights is so diverse and so majority small business that we pulled up on that to keep it more general and inclusive to capture as many businesses that need help as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion or comments, what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll move the item.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion by Daniels, second by Bruins. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item is department reports, and we have none. The next item is city manager items.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. Yes, hi, council. Well, it's after 16 plus years of service. Tonight's my last council meeting. Tomorrow is my last day, and so I want to take this opportunity really to thank the council and the community and the staff for really the wonderful send off, the great celebration, the kind words and the speeches and the gifts. It's all been very overwhelming, and I'm very moved by it. And thank you for that so much. And it's been an honor of a lifetime to serve here in Citrus Heights and in the roles that I have. And I'm looking forward to, of course, the next chapter. But I'm really looking forward to staying in touch with many of you and members of the staff and all the relationships in the community we've built over a decade and a half. I've really had the pleasure of working with incoming city manager, Mr. Feeney, that's been a pleasure. He's a tremendous guy and leader, and city's in very good hands there. So I look forward to watching his leadership and the top shelf staff to support him. I couldn't be more proud of all of them. So on behalf of my family and myself, thank you all very much. And so long for now. Thank you.
Mayor, could I add something?
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Chris. It's been a long time that you have served the public, mainly in your law enforcement career, and certainly as our chief and as our city manager. You have sacrificed tremendously through your life. Your family has sacrificed, and you're to be commended for that. It's not an easy career, and you took it all the way to the top, and that's very admirable. And I appreciate greatly the work that you did with our police department, the work you've done as our city manager. We've bumped heads at time, but that's okay. And and we move forward. But I want to congratulate you, tremendously congratulate you for deciding to, I guess, pull the plug at a young age, and the opportunity that you have to spend time with your children who are still in your home, and with your family and your wife, and hopefully travel and just enjoy that the fruits of that sacrifice, because I know it's been tremendous, and you're to be commended for that. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Chris, Mr. Boyd, Chief, I'll just keep it simple. I wish you well in all your future endeavors, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Jeannie.
Yes. So Chris, you and I have spent some time together recently, and you know how I feel about you. And you've become a great friend, in addition to being a phenomenal leader in our community. I'll never forget the day we rolled out our police department. Never forget the day we hired you and as our police chief. And just to watch what you have done in these 16 years has been amazing. You've put our police department on the map, and you have cemented our city on the map. And so God bless you as you go forward. And I'm sure I'll see you sometime soon.
You will indeed. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. And Chris, I just want to express my appreciation for your hard work, all the great people that you've hired. You're leaving with us, or you're leaving us with in very, very good hands. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Mhm.
And I'll close it out with Chris. Grit, grace, resilience. You've done a wonderful job in the time that I've been able to work with you, and your impact, the legacy you leave here, is going to be phenomenal, and it's going to take us for the next 20 years and beyond. I thank you very much for everything you've done. And with that, before we all get emotional, next item.
Next item is items requested by council members and future agenda items.
All right, Mr. Miller, you're on.
How'd you know?
I don't know.
Just looking for support. I think we need to do this every time we get an unfunded mandate. That's just my opinion, but I'd like to do a strongly worded resolution objecting to SB 1383 and forwarding that on to the governor and the California legislature.
I second that wholeheartedly.
I'm right with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could add, if I could ask Ryan to bring something back to the council regarding the legal parameters, whatever you want to call them, of unfunded state mandates. I'd like to see some documentation on that.
Do.
And I'm curious too, I haven't heard much from the League of Cities on this issue. Anyway, don't want to do a Brown Act violation, so I'll stop talking.
There we go. Okay, you have your mark. You
Mayor?
have your yes.
Yes, Mayor, I have one other suggestion. I'd like to see if I could get some support from my, we have an awful lot of drive-through establishments, restaurants and coffee shops. And I'd really like to see us slow down on adding more. I'd like to suggest a 5-year moratorium on any drive-through restaurant, any establishment that serves food. Let's slow down a little. We're going a little over the top on, in my opinion, on drive-through restaurants. Anybody else support that?
I'll say this. I'll support your request simply because I think as a council member, you have a right to have that brought back and discussed. Don't know if I'm ready to support it in concept, but I support your request to have that brought back.
Okay, well, let's not bring that back as a moratorium. Let's bring it back as a study session item. I would like to look at it and see how it fits with any general plan amendments or anything like that.
And I agree with Portia. Tim, I have a problem with the word moratorium. We had when we first started looking at how to handle Sunrise Mall, when we were getting so much resistance 3 years ago, our first thought was a moratorium, but we knew that would do harm to other businesses. So could we soften that a little bit and say that let's bring it back for a discussion item and to address the situation?
Absolutely.
Then I'll support that too.
Thank you.
Thank
There
you.
we have it. Anything else? With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9 o'clock on the dot.
All right.
Good evening.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Good job, Bush.
Thank you.